Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready to go.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today for the February PDX Tug. Jack, could you go to the slide? So today we're super excited. We're going to be looking into natural language processing and natural language generation. Jack is going to walk us through some really interesting, or he's going to kind of walk us through at a broader level. And then we've got Palesh here to really drive this home and talk about a specific tool. So we'll start out with a welcome, and then Jack Holbert from Interworks is going to be here. And then we've got Palesh to talk through from ARIA. And
both Palesh and Scott Moyer from ARIA who will be showing up and presenting the second half, and then going.
Awesome. So just to kind of remind everyone, if you're new to this tug, we do have a pretty regular schedule, and we have an incredible team of people that helps to put these on. So everyone here is the panelist. Feel free to, if you have any questions at any point, put it in the chat, or there's the Q&A section. The Q&A section is a bit easier for us to manage. So I think we'd like the questions there, but the chat is fine too. I know technology can be annoying and tricky sometimes, but we like to meet once a month, and we try to aim for Thursdays around 1, but sometimes things are changing around and different events go on, and it's easier for other days. But this month we have Jack Holbert is kind of leading and organizing anything. Next month we have Cynthia, and then we're still changing around some of the dates, but these are our tentative dates. Jonathan on the 21st, Chris is going to be in May, and then I'm going to lead in June. So if you have any questions or ideas for content, please feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions or ideas, or you yourself want to present. So we like to try to do community spotlights when we can. This is how you would reach out to us. So you can reach out using PDX Tableau user group at gmail.com. Or if you go to our actual tug page, there's an option for a presenter sign up. Even if you don't necessarily want to be the presenter, if you have an idea and want to submit that way, we're able to track it through there. All right. So I think without further ado, thank you all for coming, and I'm going to hand it off to Jack to talk a little bit about natural language and why it relates to us as BI professionals as well as Tableau users. So Jack, take it away.
Thank you, Danny, and thanks everybody for joining us today for our February tug. So as Danny alluded to, I'm going to be talking about natural language processing and natural language as a whole and how it relates to us as BI developers, analysts, Tableau users, and some use cases for natural language and practical ways that we can get started with using it within a Tableau workflow. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the background and the history and some different industry applications of natural language processing and NLP. And then after this, I have Scott Moyer and Palesh Mehti from ARIA, and they'll go through some details on natural language generation, which is it's a very interesting subset of natural language processing, and they're going to show you how you can use that in Tableau. But to start out, I'm going to go through some more details on natural language processing for BI. So a little bit of background. So I've been working in text analytics for a couple of years now. Started mainly as a passion project, and I definitely consider my path to becoming interested in doing it professionally rather unconventional, because I started off in college doing different random like pop culture data analyses. So the first introduction to natural language processing was when I was in college, and I wanted to build a classification of like keywords and reviews and ratings for my favorite Mexican food spot in North Portland. So shout out to King Burrito if you've ever been there, if you live anywhere in North Portland. So I wanted to do that just as a means of, okay, how can I use natural language processing to take data that's out there in the wild and make sense of it and aggregate it to, you know, a broader level. And as I kept going, I just kept exploring fringe topics using more like passion projects. So, you know, I would use it to analyze song lyrics and correlate it with real life events. So more just things out of my own personal interest. And then a few years later, I began working as a consultant doing text analytics for a myriad of different companies. And mainly what we were doing was helping build products and software that would aggregate social media data, call center data, where there's a lot of text and unstructured information. And we basically process that and extract natural language from it and create data visualizations and tools that would allow business users to analyze their data more effectively and you know, get insight from large text data sets. And now I currently work as an analytics consultant along with a few other panelists here at Interworks, and I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I see Ole. Yeah, that's a good call out there. So a little bit about what is natural language processing. So essentially what natural language processing is it's the science of how we study language. It was initially developed by a combination of linguists, statisticians, and then eventually computer scientists to break down the complexities of human language, not just the English, but all languages and the semantic rules, the different parts of our speech, you know, things that are significant like names, and being able to train computers how to interpret and understand these parts of our language so that it can be systematically studied. And what's really interesting, natural language processing has actually been around since the early 1900s and was, you know, lightly used in the mid-century when computers were first, you know, being developed. And then, you know, it was mostly in the field of like computational linguistics and research. And then it didn't really come onto the center stage as a popular industry application until the late 1990s, early 2000s, you know, during the tech boom. So ultimately, the goal of natural language processing is to capture the context, subjectivity, and the nuance of our spoken and written languages so that computers can understand and process it. So a little bit about how we use it in an everyday you know, format. So we actually access natural language processing methods every day, especially if you have a smartphone or a smartwatch. So one way in which we engage every day with NLP is, you know, engaging with our Apple Watches and ask, you know, Siri or Alexa questions. That is a natural language processing task, summarizing data points in a way that is interpretable by a human. Extraction. So if you've applied for a job anytime in the last couple of years, you know, you've probably been through a process where you upload your resume, and then the next page after you upload your resume, it parses all the fields out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it'll extract the key information from your resume. That is another application of NLP, capturing information deemed relevant from a recruiting perspective. So extraction, that's another method. And classification. And so classification, one popular application of classification tasks in NLP is sentiment analysis. So I know that's a popular one. And it's, you know, I've seen some applications of it in Tableau actually, which we'll go into later. And really what this deals with is, you know, especially sentiment analysis, taking snippets of text, looking at all the individual parts of that text and scoring whether it's perceived as positive, negative, or neutral language, and then ranking that entire piece of text as a document rather than looking at individual words. So then, you know, if you're looking at like social media comments, you can then discern whether, you know, a comment is positive or negative and indicating an issue. So that's one popular way that is being used in industry. And the most common use cases of where we see NLP right now, you know, customer service chatbots. So if you've ever, you know, filed a claim on a website, and it's usually the step you go through before you interact with a human. There will be an NLP process that is a chatbot and will field your request, pick up on the language that you're typing into a chatbot, and then take an action based on the way it was programmed or get you in touch with the right person. So that again is another NLP application. Fraud detection based on words used on a phone call, the spam blockers you hear of that, that filter spam calls to your phone or your email filters. That is all based on NLP tasks. And then some growing use cases, as I kind of alluded to, the rise of smart home virtual assistant products, very much that's a booming field and booming subset of NLP technology. Brand monitoring on social media, so being able to look at troves of social interactions and being able to aggregate all of that and understand, high level trends and themes across, thousands or millions of comments or pieces of text. And also, recruiting and HR analytics, resume parsing tools, being able to sift through lots of documents to aggregate and summarize things. So why do we need this in business intelligence? Well, first off, as BI professionals, we live in a world that consists mostly of structured data. So what this means by structure is, columns and rows, tabular data, things such as CSVs, SQL databases, where the data that we're receiving to either visualize, analyze, or report on is already in a given a structure that is clean and easy to put into a tool like Tableau, and usually does not require any large scale like processing or pivoting. Now, the reason that text analytics is so new, especially in a Tableau context or a BI context, is because 80% of, and this is of the world's data, is text, and it usually comes in a format that requires additional processing. So either it's coming in as semi-structured or unstructured altogether. And so the challenge has traditionally been, how do we get these data points, things such as social media or unstructured documents and text, into a format that we can then bring into a tool like Tableau or even a database and visualize and analyze at scale in a way that makes sense, both for us and our downstream users. So in addition, natural language, so going back, what I just presented on, that is more so from the perspective of a developer or an analyst using natural language processing. We want to be able to acquire and obtain new sources of insight. Now, in tools like Tableau, it's actually also benefiting ourselves and our users. So natural language technology empowers downstream consumers, so not necessarily developers, to consume and ask data their own questions. So in this case, like Ask Data, which is built into Tableau server, you can configure your data sets so that anybody with a viewer license in Tableau can essentially ask questions to a dashboard or a data set, and it will provide them a natural language summary. And it's a self-service empowering tool that is ultimately could replace the ad hoc requests that analysts might deal with on a daily basis. And also, as developers and analysts, it allows us to save time fielding those requests. So using natural language technology, we have the ability to serve more consumers of data at scale with report writing assistance, with these data aggregation tools that are all powered by natural language technology. So it has the power to help us reach more users, communicate complex data points effectively and at scale. So now I'm going to talk about how in a Tableau workflow we can actually start to use these natural language processing methods. And I'm actually going to go through an example project that I created about 2 years ago, and a little bit about kind of how to start your process of sourcing and going through the process of an NLP project from start to finish. So from data discovery to visualization or insight discovery. So the way I typically work, and I've seen other people in the NLP profession in BI work, is it starts with setting a goal. So because text is highly subjective and language is highly subjective, it's good to have a strategy about, what is considered meaningful to you as an analyst, or if you're doing building reports for other business users. What are the parts of language or attributes of language that are going to be important or relevant to that audience? So, if you're a consumer brand, things like product names, entities like names, places, or names of people, cities, all of those things you might want to tag if you're doing an NLP analysis. Second thing is you want to identify your data source. So, are you going to be looking at a text data source that has structure to it, which usually isn't the case, or you're going to look at something that's semi-structured, maybe something like Reddit or a social media API where you can pull raw text, or totally unstructured data. So that would be more like PDFs, receipts, free-form text documents. So all of these require different ways of handling the processing and getting that into a format that you can use in Tableau. So we're going to focus on an example that uses a semi-structured data set. Next, your process of ingestion. So basically a part of every NLP analysis, and I'll share some resources at the end of this that you can get started with, but it requires a few different steps that are all actually possible in Tableau. And it's basic functions such as text cleaning and stripping down the text data into a format that it makes it easier for computers to interpret and read it. And then finally, the strategy behind how you want to visualize and analyze this data. So are you going to look at sentiment analysis or specific words and keyword frequency? So there's a little bit of strategizing that's required to do that based on steps 1, 2, and 3. So there's a few places in the Tableau ecosystem where natural language processing is being done or can be done. So if you're a Tableau developer or a Tableau analyst or someone that is creating content, you have the ability to actually do natural language processing tasks in Tableau workbooks using the Python and R analytics extensions, or in a Tableau prep flow in your data prep process. And the benefit of using these in the Tableau ecosystem is that along with all of your other, if you're doing any other data transformation, joins, pivots, data cleaning tasks, you can actually, you can have NLP live among all of that. And, it's all containerized into one workflow. It makes documentation easier. And it can also serve as like a learning experience for other colleagues or people that might pick up the pipeline, or collaborators, right? So it's a very easy way to have visibility and share knowledge there in the flow or in the workbook. And then also on the Tableau server itself, we have ask data and explain data, both of which are natural language technologies that help downstream users with the consumption of the products that we're building. So these are 3 ways within the ecosystem. We're going to cover 2 in this sample here. So a couple of years ago, I did a project where basically I wanted to aggregate conversations that were coming from Reddit. And at the time I was exploring the Reddit API, which is, if you're curious about doing an NLP project, it's a great place to start. But what I wanted to understand is, okay, as a Toyota owner, I wanted to understand what are the common points of contention that other Toyota owners experience. Like, what are the types of car parts that go wrong? What are the years, the makes, the models that are being mentioned? And how can we aggregate thousands, tens of thousands of Reddit comments into a dashboard or a product that makes it easier to like aggregate and analyze these conversations to get the general theme or trends that you can't get just by reading individual comments or threads on Reddit. So using the Reddit API, I pulled the data and put it into a Postgres database, or you could also pull it into a CSV. And then I used Tableau Prep to do some data cleaning and data processing and joining with other tables. But mostly what I did here, and we'll go into it in a sec, is just that's where I actually did the majority of the actual NLP tasks. And then finally, output is a Tableau dashboard that you could publish to server or in this case, I published to Tableau Public. So in the process of doing this, we went through a couple of different NLP tasks. Going back to earlier, I showed you extraction and sentiment. The first task I went through was data extraction. And the goal here in the context of Toyota and my goal of the analysis was to extract relevant entities and words that, I might care about viewing at scale, right? So if you're talking about car issues, you want to understand like what are the parts of the car that are either defective or that customers or owners are having trouble with. What are the years and the model of the car? So being able to pull all those attributes out of this chunk of text that some of them hundreds and hundreds of words. And so using the Python extension, basically what I was able to do is with a simple script in a script step in a Tableau prep flow, I was able to write a pretty short piece of code using the natural language toolkit. It's a Python package that is really user-friendly and has a lot of great out-of-the-box functions for extracting entities and keywords. I just extracted all this information to, the years of Toyota models, the names of the models, and then a list of car parts that were relevant to this analysis. Oops, sorry, got a little too happy there. The second NLP task that I went through after doing the keyword extraction was the sentiment and classification of all the comments. So in order to do this, using the same method, using natural language toolkit, we brought in a sentiment model that allowed us to classify each individual Reddit comment as positive, negative, or neutral based on the content of the comment. And so how this works is, every comment or piece of text in the data set would be, every single word in the comment would be scored based on if it's a positive word or a negative word or a word that is more neutral and doesn't necessarily have a connotation. And then what this is doing is it's scoring the comment based on the aggregation of, how overwhelmingly positive or negative a comment is. So it's taking the sum of all the words in a piece of text to generate that label that you can then bring in as a dimension in your data set and use as a point to filter and analyze your data in a dashboard or a report, or push it back to a database table for other users to use. So again, using a very short script, I was able to ascribe sentiment labels to all of the comments in my Reddit data set. And then finally, the output, a visualization where we bring in keywords. So keywords relevant to car owners. So things like batteries, brakes, headlights, things like that. And then also being able to bring in the sentiment label to build additional dimensions and measures that can be used to filter. And then also we have the names of the models. And just going back a couple of steps, before this all started out, it was just raw text that we had, and then some additional metadata about the comment. And we were able to extrapolate all of this out that we can now use to filter and pare down our data set and the comments. So we can pare it down rather than have to manually scan all of this information. We can just apply some basic filtering and start to get some insights on what's going on across 10 different Reddit communities, and also the year of the make and model. And so in the last phase of this project for insight generation, one of the insights that we were able to figure out very quickly in doing this analysis is that catalytic converter theft is one of the most frequently mentioned among Prius owners, especially 2007 Prius owners. And I thought this was especially relevant because that's something I've heard about in my neighborhood and other parts of Portland. So to be validated in that way upon first creating this dashboard, I was pretty stoked that it was working. But so this is just one example of how you can take troves of text data and really from any data source, right? You could do this with any social media API, or you could do it with phone calls, chat transcripts, process this in a way, extract relevant terms, and then build products and tools like this so that either you or your business users can sift through what have traditionally been challenging sources of information to deal with, especially from a data visualization perspective. So this gives you an opportunity to bring new information and new data sources to the forefront and begin to visualize it like you would any other data set in Tableau. So a few resources to get started with NLP. I recommend NLP with Python. It's an O'Reilly book. That's where I learned a lot of the methods that I'm sharing with you today. On the Interworks blog, we're going to continue developing some content around using NLP, not just broadly speaking, strategically, but also in Tableau. Also, I recommend reading about TabPy, which is the Tableau Python integration that has empowered and enabled a lot of the steps that I went through today. And also a couple of Python packages that are really helpful in getting started and are very well documented. So I'll make sure these are linked in the chat below for all of you to access. And now, so before I move on, I hand it over to Scott and Palash. Just want to thank you everybody, and wondered if there were any questions.
That was fantastic, Jack. You said that dashboard for Toyota is on your Tableau public, is that right?
Yes, this one right here. Yeah, this is on my Tableau public.
Okay.
Slightly up, yeah, I've updated it since the last time I pushed it out, but yeah, you can go and tinker around with it.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. I don't see any other questions. So in that case, from here, I'm going to hand it over to Scott and Palash from ARIA, and they're going to talk about natural language generation, which is also, it's a very exciting subset of natural language processing, or I guess, they're kind of in the same ecosystem, but different. And they're going to show you some really cool ways that you can get started using natural language generation in Tableau and go through some use cases. So I'm very excited to have them here. And I will pass it over to Scott and Palash from here.
Yeah, I'll take the mic from here. So speaking of mic, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Awesome. Jack, great presentation. Was just curious, those catalytic converters are not being stolen off of people's cars, are they? Hope not.
I don't know, you can check out the dashboard and figure out for yourself.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, this is such a great topic because as I was listening, it's really about bringing the power of language into Tableau dashboards. And what you just shared is just a fantastic way of doing things with words and analysis and being able to create a sentiment around it. And it's not something we see every day. So I love the different examples that are out there. As Jack said, my name is Scott Moyer. We are going to be talking about natural language generation. Natural language generation is within the artificial intelligence category where natural language processing is defined. So the way that I just very quickly define what are the difference between NLP and NLG, when we ask our smart speaker to play a song or what is the weather, it's basically breaking down that sentence into elements, right? So what is the weather? It's going to know where I am and my location, and then it's going to read back to me in natural language generation, what is the weather? So natural language processing is the definition is breaking it down into something that is manageable and that you can equate mathematically on. And NLG is the way that you can speak back to you. So that's the way that I think about it with ever since everyone has a smart speaker these days. So first of all, thanks everybody. We really appreciate the PDX Tech Group for inviting us. My name is Scott Moyer. I'm a senior account executive, and I'm joined by my colleague Palash here. What we are going to be talking about is NLG, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and see it. Okay, great. All right, so I've got a few slides that I'm going to be walking through here on today's call, and then I'm going to kick it on over to Palash for a demo. So as far as ARIA, basically we're a global organization. We have over 200 people. That's really what you need to know about us, but we're continuing to expand on what is NLG and where can we put it. So natural language generation is defined as taking structured data and turning that into narrative. And there's a lot of different areas that you can do it with, one of them being in Tableau, which is really going to be our focus for today's call. So when we think about NLG, what you're seeing at the top is a Tableau dashboard. The Tableau dashboard, the charts and graphs at the very top section is things that everyone here is very familiar with. We're taking subsets of that data and we're talking about sales or sales performance by different departments. We're doing it maybe over a period of time. We're also breaking it down by product, right? So those are things that everybody does every day with different types of data. On the bottom, what we're doing is we're taking a subset of data and we're actually sending this over to ARIA Studio, where we're creating a narrative, where we're telling an analysis about a particular data set. So the three at the bottom, these are what we refer to as apps or intelligent narratives. We have 10 of these that are out of the box. They're super easy to deploy. It's like 1, 2, 3 clicks and you can have them in any dashboard. So if I were to take a look at this far right one here, right, this is target-based variance. Target-based variance, we're going to talk about what is the actual versus target sales. So here I'm actually going to pass over this data set, right? So we have product that we're passing through and market and target sales and actual sales. It's just taking this raw data file, it's sending it through this particular project for target-based variance, and it's sending back a narrative about what is actually going on within this different data model. So actual sales were $8 million or 7.75% higher than target sales, with this product Ointmo being the biggest contributor overall. So it's telling us what, not only the descriptive behaviors, but some of the diagnostic information as well. And then it starts to break it down by category and talking about this particular product Ointmo and how well it's doing and what are the different departments that is leading that drive, right? So as you can see, we're taking a very simple data structure. We're sending it over to ARIA where it's able to tell a story around the data. And that's really what our focus is within Tableau, is how can we take data and tell a story around it? By the way, if there are any questions, please feel free to send them in the chat. If the panelists have any questions, just jump in and ask away. Love to hear questions. I know it's a little bit hard to ask those during a group, but I love getting questions from the team. So if there's any that anybody has, please feel free to fire them away. As far as NLG, there's two different flavors. One is report automation. So I know many of the folks here on the phone and a lot of our clients that we work with, there's a report that has to go out every Friday. There's an email that they send out every week that has a particular data set. If you have those, what you can do is you can use NLG to create a static report. This static report is using the underlying structure of data, and you can package that up in a Word document or an email or PDF, which gets automated and it can get sent out. You think about every single football game that's happened over the course of the year. If you wanted to write an article about those games, we just need the box scores. We would send it over to ARIA. We can talk about who won, who lost, who had the most yards, the injuries, and so on. You do that with skiing, right? So I'm trying to think of all the different sports events that have been going on here recently. The second is augmented analytics. Tableau being one of those primary, is that you can put ARIA NLG within your Tableau dashboard. As you're clicking and filtering and that underlying model changes, your narrative is going to change through your journey. So you have static narratives that you can create and you have dynamic narratives that you can create. One of the benefits for report automation is speed. You can create a million, hyper personalized reports where it would take a team of writers 1,000,000 years to do that. We can do that automatically. So speed and efficiency are the names of the game when you're talking about report automation. When you're thinking about augmented analytics, so I'm sure many of the people on the phone here today could nod their head in agreement and say, we build these dashboards and I have no idea how people are using them. Do they understand it? Do they get it? When you add NLG in there and it's starting to tell a story with your data, we know that this can help to increase overall adoption, right? We're building these dashboards for our business users. Are the business users actually using them? Do they understand the data? So by having a narrative that goes in there, very quickly and easily tell people what is going on with this data set, where to navigate throughout the page, what are my 3 most important insights that they need to bring. That helps to increase overall adoption and therefore helps to increase overall ROI. You can surface insights, things that are very difficult to see visually. So where it wouldn't work well in a chart or a graph, we can surface those insights. So an example of that would be, we can do all 4 types of insights: descriptive, so what is going on with it; diagnostic, why did those things happen; prescriptive, what should you be doing with this information; and predictive, if this trend continues, where will we see this data take us? So as long as you have that underlying data model, we can talk about all those different insights. And by having that in there, it can really lead speed to action. So instead of taking the time to analyze what's happened in the past, we can read and understand what's happened in the past and figure out what to do with the information. All right, so this is where I pause and ask for questions. Let me see if there's any that are popping up here in the channel. Don't think I see any, but please feel free to ask away. All right, so the value of augmented analytics. So we can help with going from data understanding to creating actionable insights, which leads to an impact, which leads to quantifiable business outcomes. And that's really what we want at the end of the day. We're building these data models, these dashboards, to help business users better understand what's happening with their data. And what we want out of the data is quantifiable business outcomes. And NLG can help to move that story along. So what do the experts say? Forrester did a report with ARIA, and they took a look at all of our different clients that are out there. And what they found is that there's a 209% return on their investment. By having NLG in your dashboard, your business users are going to better understand the data, better understand what to do with it. It can help to reduce the amount of time, right? So we're looking at organizational efficiencies, and it can help to improve overall automation. If you are interested in this report, you can scan this with your phone, or we can send out a link later, but this is the full Forrester report here. Gartner also says by 2025, data stories will be in 75%, by 2025, 75% of stories will be generated using these sort of techniques. And we're starting to see this. This was said in 2020, and we're now in 2022. We're well on our way to be seeing this in a lot of different tools where analytics are. All right, so 2 more things, and I'll pass this on over to Palash. So within ARIA, there's 3 different tools, within Tableau, there's 3 different tools you can do. One is NLG apps. These are our 10 out-of-the-box narratives. You can see them on the bottom from descriptive statistics all the way through correlations. Very easy to deploy. So if you want NLG in your dashboards, it's very easy to bring in there. If it's not something that comes right out of the box, ARIA is a web-based tool where you can build a custom narrative. You can basically purpose fit to any different dashboard that you might have. So maybe it's accounts receivable. You want to have something around your accounting department and which are the accounts over 90 days. We also have ARIA Answers, which is our natural language technologies where you can ask a natural language question, get a natural language answer in response, similar to Ask Data, but the difference is instead of producing a chart or a graph, we're producing a natural language sentence. Very quickly, we're probably going to go through a few financial use cases today. We do have a lot of different use cases by industry that you can see. Consumer retail or retail, there's a lot of different use cases that you can use with NLG. Life sciences, energy, finance, and so on. I mean, there's so many different places. Wherever you have structured data, you can have NLG. Tableau built this embedded analytics dashboard, so not only is it for internal applications, it can also be for external facing applications. So wherever you want your end user, to understand the data, we have to make it level across the board, right? Not everybody can understand this chart or this graph, so you can have NLG embedded in this narrative. And then finally, how do I get started? Where can I try? If you scan this with your phone, we're going to send this out at the end of the day, but you can just follow this link and you can start a free trial. You can add this into dashboards that you're working on. We would love to see that. We're here to help if you have any questions, but this is free to try out. All right, with that being said, I think I've gotten through all the boring stuff. Palash, oh, actually, are there any questions? I don't know if there are. No, it looks like we're good.
Okay.
Keep those questions coming. I'll field them to Palash, but Palash, go ahead and jump in and show us a demo.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Scott. Let me share my screen. All right. So real quick, with Arya, the concept is that we want to have energy everywhere. And in order to allow you to do that, we have what we call like a flexible architecture. What this essentially allows you to do is, oops, sorry about that. What this essentially allows you to do is make or generate energy from anywhere within your tech stack. So particularly if you're working in Tableau, there's an extension that allows you to do that. But if you're working outside of BI tools, we make it possible through this REST API, essentially. All we need to process data is structured data from any data source, which is typically ingested in the form of CSV or JSON. That data is then passed over to Studio. Studio is a backend web application where we design the models that will run against your data. The output of that is words in the form of text or HTML. If you're using Tableau, the container is provided for you, and I'll be walking through a demonstration of that shortly. But if you're using a custom web app, you're generating reports, you can still make this API call from anywhere that is API capable interface. Having said that, let me quickly dive into the demo. All right, so what you see on my screen is a Tableau dashboard. It's got some sample sort of sales performance data in there. This data is very typical of sales, so it has some product information, COGS, target sales, actual sales values, some markets, and some time dimensions in there. And what we've gone ahead and done is really created quick energy narratives for these visuals that you see on the screen. The way Arya really works is that we connect to the underlying data on your dashboard. So let's say you have a dashboard built in Tableau today. You have some worksheets configured. All you really need to do is pull in the Arya extension, and you'll see how that works. We'll give you access to it. It's free to trial. You pull in this Arya extension, and you configure your dimensions and measures, and essentially pick a pre-built model. That's the out-of-the-box functionality that Scott spoke about earlier, wherein all you really have to do is plug and play. It's essentially designed to bring quick, actionable insights to your dashboards in a couple of steps. So when I look at this dashboard, you can see that I have actual sales for market and product, and we have an energy narrative populated down below. You can see it gives me an overall statement, and it says that the total value of actual sales is this number. It then talks about a summarization of the market, and then goes into details and talks about what the actual sales by the product for each one of those markets that we're talking about. And in this way, it sort of tries to drill down into your data. Now, a bar chart is really simple. You can also kind of see it, but what happens when the graphs are a little more dense? In that case, energy can really help bring out and surface those insights. So for example, if I'm looking at this line chart here, and you can see it's a little dense, we don't know exactly what's going on in there. But if I plug in energy into that, you'll see that it produces a narrative that really talks about a trend as to what happened to profit over certain time periods and how they changed at an overall level. It also does a time variance analysis, wherein it talks about the profit and its change between the most two recent quarters, as well as talks about what the main drivers and offsets were to that change. It also does a correlation analysis, and it talks about essentially which departments moved along similar lines and similar trends. And in this way, it sort of tries to highlight real quickly what is underneath all of that data. Of course, the idea is that all of these narratives and energy is dynamic. So what that means for you is that I can make selections on my visuals and have them filter through in a manner in which the narratives are made based on the selections I make, allowing you to sort of drill down very easily into your data. Today at Arya, we have, I think, 10 out of the box narratives, along with the ability to customize your own. Real quick, let's see how we can customize one narrative. I'm just going to pop into the edit mode in here. Give it a second. Right, we're going to pop into edit mode. And the first thing I would need to do is configure data. As I go about configuring my data, I need to log in, and you only really need to log in if you're going to be configuring the app. Viewers will not be affected by this at all. The first step is to attach a worksheet. So I have a worksheet in here, which is line. It contains some dimensions and measures. In this case, it talks about a date dimension, which is month, a market, as well as profit. I'm going to select all of them, save this, go into NLG apps. And these apps are essentially models that we've built in Studio based on what we see customers and clients use on a daily basis. These allow you to quickly uncover some insights. So out of the 10, we have descriptive statistics, which will drill down, which will give you some statistically relevant information. Time-based variance would give you quarter over quarter, month over month, year over year analysis, drill down through a number of different dimensions. Trend analysis will analyze changes in measure over time, highlight significant shifts, and drill down again through a number of dimensions and measures. Ranking analysis will find the top and bottom. Anomalies will contextualize the data that is given and sort of try and find the outliers, both in terms of time and non-time dimensions. Correlations will try and detect correlations between, for example, if you wanted to find out what the correlations were between number of clicks and sales. This app would do a good job of doing that. Bar chart would do a standard drill down. Line chart is what we're going to be exploring right now. And target-based variance will do actual versus target and form the narrative for that. Now, as you can see, based on the data that it receives, as well as what your requirements are for the narrative, you can use any of these apps to sort of configure the narrative to your liking. Target-based variance here has been grayed out simply because it doesn't meet the minimum criteria for the narrative to be generated. So it requires at least 2 measures, and we haven't given that information to it yet. However, we're going to go ahead and select line chart. Once I make the selection, it pops up a simple screen, which tells me, hey, is this the dimensions and measures that you want to talk about? Within that, what entity types are you interested in? You can set aliases for it as well. Let me go on here. I have profit. I can set the entity type of currency and the unit to USD. If this was another different data set, I could easily sort of pop into and say, hey, percentage, is this a percentage, a ratio, or a rating? Because these are aggregated differently in the narrative as well. Next, and ultimately I get an option to pick the verbosity of my narrative. So do I want a simple summary? Do I want important things, or tell me everything? And based on this selection, it's going to give you insights. If I select summary, it's going to give me the main driver and offset. If I do important things, it's going to give me more than one drivers and offsets based on some of the selections I've made. And if I do tell me everything, it'll give me all the statistically relevant information that we could find within the data set. So if I select summary in this case, you'll see here that it gives me back just a very high level sort of month over month information, giving me the main driver and offset to that increase in profit. And I can generate this. Again, you can explore this on your own. We'll make the links available to you guys, and you can go in there and actually play with it a little bit. Now, obviously not one size fits all. And you might ask me the question, hey, Palash, you know, this narrative looks great, but I want to actually speak about this in a certain way. I want to include my own thresholds. I want to have my own sort of business logic as a part of this narrative. And we do allow for that to happen. That is through custom narratives. And we have an example for custom narratives in here where we're trying to narrate, and let me actually pop into presentation mode, where we're trying to narrate fund performance commentary. So what this is doing really is taking a set of data that includes portfolio information, securities, certain other dimensions such as sector, sub-industry, and country, and forming a narrative that really talks about the performance of that fund. So you can see up here that I have certain fields within Tableau, and I have lenses that I can dive into. I can also slice and dice my data and narrate on it on the basis of sector, country, or sub-industry. I can also change the type, whether I want it to be as percentage points or I want it to be as BPS. I can also have top and bottom, and I can configure all of these. And all of this is done as a project that has been built in Studio that runs against this set of data to generate this insight. And I'm going to go ahead and sort of change through. You'll see if I select details, I'll have my narrative update to provide me that level of information. And you can see here that it really talks about at a summary level, as well as at a key driver level, as to how my stock is performing. And I can switch this around, and with a few clicks of a button, you can see how an analyst can look at different portfolios, filter that through different dimensions and different lenses, and get back different unique narratives that speak to the data, giving you exactly the information that you need in an easy to read, really quick format. I'm going to quickly pause here because I've run through quite a lot to see if you guys had any questions for me.
So Blash, one
actually
thing that
have-
might be, I'm sorry,
Go
go ahead.
Oh,
No,
I was
please.
going to ask a question. So I'm just curious, like, I'm trying to think for the for an end user here. So the last part was really compelling, where you can configure all of the data in a dashboard with your own business logic and business rules. So with the custom narratives, so if you had like actions you wanted your stakeholders to take based on what was being shown in the dashboard, you could also technically like put that into the narrative as well, right? So like based on different variations in the data, you could expose certain actions and recommendations and automate that process as well, all in the dashboard. Could you do that with the custom narrative?
Yes, definitely, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Scott.
No, I
another
didn't know if
question
there's
about-
anything additional you want to say on top of that.
Yeah, no, that pretty much covers it. Like, so the idea here
Sure.
is that with custom narratives, you can build your own NLG. It's really easy to build. We have trainings available for you to do that as well to get you guys up to speed. We have pre-built models that you can build off of, so you never have to start from scratch. The reality is that all of this really powerful, especially in terms of what Scott spoke about earlier, which is the whole goal of it being data literacy, access to the right information across the organization.
Plosh, question that came through the chat here. Is it possible to edit the text?
Yes. So for the out-of-the-box narratives, which are pre-built and pre-configured, you can't edit the text as such, but you can definitely do that with custom narratives. And we can provide you with the Studio links and information to help you do that as well.
So say I really like this analysis, but like maybe there's just like a couple key points that I wanted to do and then email that off. Is that something that I can do?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can build a process.
Could you show an example of like the copy narrative feature that's built in here?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. You can copy a narrative once you've generated it from right within Tableau. Alternatively, you can also just set up, because we're an API-based system, you can also set up APIs such that they pull in your data from your data lake, hit the ARIA API and the Studio project endpoint, and give you back narratives, which you can then insert into your emails, PowerPoint presentations, etc.
Yeah, I think just a couple other things to point out here. This particular project was built for fund analysis. The fund managers spend hours analyzing this and writing up the summary. We can do this instantaneously. You can do this for 100 different funds. But you could also take a similar project and you could apply this to maybe like a P&L statement. A lot of times we're using our Tableau dashboards to bring in our profit and losses to analyze it visually. But you could also figure out a way that you want to write about it. What were the best performing business units? Did we take on at more debt than average? There's things that you can do. So there's different ways to use this logic and this process to bring everything within your Tableau dashboard. And instead of screenshotting your dashboard, putting it in a PowerPoint and sending it off, you can now direct people over to your Tableau dashboard. So it gets rid of redundancy that might potentially happen. And then flash that little alert there. That's pretty cool. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So this is information that you may not be privy to while, or may not be a part of the data set as well. So there is a way to sort of insert that information into the narrative, you know, by your analyst, and you can add that here as an alert as well.
Great. Jack, I know we're bumping up against time, but we wanted to make sure we went through these two features and functions in Aria's Tableau toolkit.
Yeah, this was great, and I certainly learned a lot. I think it's, I mean, a powerful tool from, you know, when I was a data analyst and having to do a lot of this manually. You know, being able to give users the power to self-service and have these narratives, like, that is incredibly powerful, especially embedded in Tableau. Were there any other questions from Q&A that we needed to answer? I don't think so. All right.
There's a question to display the QR code again. So let me just share my screen. I wasn't sure which QR code, but here's one. This is for our free trial. So I'll just sit here for a minute if you wanted to grab that, and then I will go to the other QR code that I created. Oops, for some reason, hold on. Oops, there it is. And this is for the total economic impact report. So you guys can grab those. And Jack, you have some links that we're going to be sending out afterwards, right?
Yeah, we have a follow-up email with all the info from this chat here today, this meetup. And there we'll link all the resources, you know, the starting resources for NLP, some information about the next meetups, and then also some links from Aria about the different extensions and Tableau connectivity. So we'll send that. You can expect that as a follow-up after this meeting at some time. And then also for those who joined us a little bit or halfway through or part of the way through, all of these sessions are recorded and posted to YouTube. So once that is up, you'll be able to find it on Tableau's YouTube channel. So if you missed the first half about NLP, you'll be able to watch that later, and same with the second half. So yeah, let's see if there's anything else.
Cynthia asked a question, excuse me, Sydney asked a question. How long does the free trial last? Currently it lasts 2 weeks, but just email me and I can extend it. And you'll get in touch with somebody like me once you sign up for a trial. So we're happy to help you there.
Awesome. And yeah, Ryan just went ahead and posted the link to where our recordings will live. So if you want to access it there, we'll also send to that link as a follow-up to this email. But so thank you for everybody for attending today. Next month, we have Cynthia running our next Tableau user group. So we're very excited about that. And we have events planned for the next few months. So we're very excited to keep this going in the new year. And yeah, thanks everybody for taking your time today.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate having us on.
Thanks to all the presentations and presenters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.